Hello, I'm Dr. David Haase with the MaxWell Clinic, and I'm going to talk to you about something I absolutely adore today, and this is NAD. And I am the lead faculty for the Institute for Functional Medicine's Bioenergetics course. It's part of the course that anybody that's getting certified in functional medicine has to take, and they have to sit through me teaching them about mitochondrial function. So I've gotten to train over 10,000 physicians worldwide about mitochondria, and NAD is right at the center of mitochondrial health. So I'm going to geek out here a little bit. If I give it a little bit too much detail, you can fast forward. But a lot of people want to know kind of the underside of some of this, and I'm still going to condense it down. But NAD is such an important molecule, and it's gotten a lot of attention recently, which thrills me because it is the center of energy production inside the cell. And so we'll go more into it. Now, at MaxWell Clinic, we have a long history with NAD supporting its production by the body and also administering it IV. And we've done this for about 14 years now. Dr. Richard Maystayer is one of the pioneers of this. He is an addiction medicine specialist, practices integrative psychiatry, and he is one of the individuals that helped show us how powerful this therapy is in the treatment of addiction disorders. And that really got my mind thinking, because we help people with complex and chronic cognitive issues here at MaxWell Clinic. We're all about brain performance and how that affects your mood, your memory, your attention, your quality of life. And the brain consumes a huge amount of energy in the day. That little 2.5 pounds of mush up there inside your skull consumes about 23% of your daily energy usage in your body. It runs hot. And NAD is at the center of these internal combustion engines that we call mitochondria. So it's really reasonable that NAD has gotten such popularity lately, but I think it's really important that you work with people that understand this molecule, not just as a molecule, but how it applies in clinical practice. So what is NAD? It's an acronym for Nicotinamide Adenine Dinucleotide. Sometimes you'll see it written as NAD+. They're the same thing. It really just depends on how people are writing in communication form. The accurate way would be NAD+. And it is required as a cofactor in the production of energy. It is inside of every cell in your body. It is inside every mitochondria that's inside of every cell in your body. And the basics of energy production has everything to do with how do we get to a couple of energized molecules that are kind of like the gasoline for your internal combustion engines, we call them, or the internal combustion engine for the cell. So your mitochondria take the food you eat from the outside, the fats, the carbohydrates, the proteins, and transfer the energy that are in the cellular bonds to make ATP and a small amount of GTP. These are the molecules of energy that are inside the cells. And smack dab in the middle of that process is this molecule, NAD+, and its partner, NADH. As NAD+ converts to NADH and it goes back again, that is part of this water wheel that transitions energy from food into ATP. If you don't have enough of this NAD, you're not going to be able to efficiently convert the energy that's in food into ATP so your cells can do the work that they need to do. So, incredibly important. Now, NAD is not just an important intermediary molecule in the production of energy, but it is also a very important signaling agent. It participates very strongly with a genetic message called the sirtuin genes, SIRT. And sirtuin genes are very important in helping decrease oxidative stress and they are important regulators of aging. So it's strongly believed that as the level of NAD goes down inside of our cells, that this supports the aging process accelerating. One of the other factors that really decrease NAD levels are drugs. It's been fascinating, and Dr. Maystayer clinically understood this, but as we go into the biology of why is IV NAD so helpful sometimes in turning around a individual's addiction, is because there are small cells inside the brain called medium spiny neurons. And the medium spiny neurons have a lot of control on our task-positive reward behavior. So what that means is that when you do something that's good for you, your brain kind of has to give you an attaboy. That's right, good, you ate your broccoli. And now the body says, your mind says, oh, I did a good job here, attaboy. And it takes a little dopamine signaling to make that happen. It turns out in these particular neurons, when you consume a drug of abuse, alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, benzodiazepines, so it'd be like Xanax, etc., some of the sleeping medications, and even saturated fat, pure glucose, all of those things kind of exhaust the mitochondria that are in these important cells that regulate your ability to choose good behaviors. So addiction wears out this ability in the brain to make better decisions. And it's a damnable cycle that people get into. As we utilize these drugs to change how we feel, but then they end up exhausting the very cells that can keep us from overusing those substances. IV NAD, I think, is one of the reasons it works is that it helps restore healthy mitochondrial activity in these cells that regulate our ability to self-regulate our behavior. So it's very interesting that this molecular intervention can make a big difference in how we actually behave in our world and how we experience life. Likewise, we see NAD levels not just being brought down with the consumption of addictive molecules, but also with aging. Aging is profound in how much the NAD levels go down inside the cells. And that then supports the progression of all of the age-related diseases progressing at a more rapid rate. Illness will knock down your NAD levels, so infections, toxins, allergens, all of those things are going to create an increased demand for your body and decrease the supply of this very important molecule. Stress also decreases NAD levels. And again, stress is really our ability to respond to a challenge. The difference between when you consider something a stressor and when you consider it exercise is just how completely can you recover after that challenge was represented. Now, if you have adequate NAD and you can make enough cellular energy to respond and repair in response to a challenge, well, you've just become stronger. But if instead you don't have enough NAD and you're not able to make enough ATP to do the work of the cells as they regenerate and repair, well, now you're worse off. And that has to do with how much energy is available for your cells to do the work that those cells need to do. It doesn't matter if it's a liver cell, a nerve cell, a kidney cell, a blood vessel cell, all the cells need energy. This is a universal issue when it comes to the health of the body. And because your cells make up your tissues, and your tissues make up your organs, and your organs make up you, it's really important to pay attention to these fundamental processes that affect the whole of the body. So that's why I think NAD and thinking about our cellular energy production capabilities is so incredibly important. Now, there's a lot more to the story of mitochondria than NAD. There's a tremendous more. So this is not a one intervention to cure it all. Absolutely not. You really have to understand each human, but this is an incredibly powerful tool in the right hands and the right dose for the right person. If we have low NAD or NADH, what are the consequences of that? What may that cause in our life experience? When the brain cells have decreased energy availability, a function of the brain diminishes. What does your brain do? Think about it for a second. What does your brain do? We go through all of our days not really considering this organ that gives us consciousness, that brings in all of our senses, our smells, our taste, the sights, our sounds. Our brain controls all of our movement. Our brain collects information, decides what to pay attention to, controls our attention, then controls our processing of that information, controls what we remember, and does all of this without our being aware of it. It's an absolutely amazing organ that's profoundly energy dependent. So the brain needs to really become the centerpiece of healthcare, because when you do that, now you recognize this major mechanism of how we improve quality of life. So when you have low NAD and that's going to lower cellular energy, and the cells that use the most energy are the cells that are in your brain, it can come about as any number of symptoms. And this is what's so tricky. It's not like, your right index finger turns purple. You're like, oh, there's a problem there. This is a diffuse issue that goes across all cells in the body, all over the place. When your brain doesn't have enough energy, you can have symptoms of low mood, depression, anxiety. We see conditions that have names like bipolar disease and schizophrenia have profound linkages with increased oxidative stress in the brain. Those are certainly can be affected by low NAD. If we understand cognition, we do a tremendous amount of work with neurocognitive disorders and neurodevelopmental disorders here at MaxWell Clinic. And all of those have a diminished mitochondrial function and decreased energy production at the core of the causation of those symptoms and conditions. NAD is really at the centerpiece of the center of energy production. And energy production is at the center of cellular health. And your cellular health is at the center of your life experience. So it's a pretty important thing to be thinking about. NAD also has importance not just in your functioning, your expression of your achievement, your enjoyment of life, but it also in your longevity. It has well-studied connection to the process of aging, and lower NAD levels are certainly associated with accelerated aging. Having enough NAD gives you better concentration, more focused thought, and better mood. It can help with athletic performance. That has to do with your brain signaling your muscles on how it should move, both in coordination and stamina. I think that it's important to recognize that anything that has to do with the brain is likely going to have a mitochondrial, any symptom that is a brain symptom is likely going to have a mitochondrial component. So stepping back and being aware of mitochondria and how they're functioning in your body is going to be of benefit to your long-term outcome. And it's also remarkable to think about NAD as NADH has a balance with NAD+. So NAD+, this molecule we're talking about, is really the exhausted form of the molecule. And NADH is the energized form of the molecule. And usually there's about 10 times more NAD plus as there is NADH, the energized form. And when we exercise, what happens? We use up some of the energized form, and that then converts into the exhausted form of the molecule. When your NAD plus levels go up, that's a signal that your cells are getting exhausted. And that turns on all of the cellular machinery to start repair and regeneration. Well, what causes your NAD levels to go up and your NADH levels to go down? Exercise. Also, we see this in fasting. We see this change happen in probably in sauna and in cold plunge therapy. Those are being studied at the present time. But when we give IV NAD, you're not diminishing the amount of the energized form of the molecule, but you're drastically putting up the level of the exhausted form of the molecule, which sends an incredible molecular signal to the body. We have tests of transcriptomics. That's a big word. You may not have heard that, but your transcriptome is the RNA that is inside your cell. Your DNA, which is the blueprint inside your body of how your cells should function and how they should be made, creates RNA, which is like a temporary message. That RNA then is the messenger to create your body's proteins, and your proteins control your metabolism. So when we want to know what a cell is doing, we like to measure its RNA, its transcriptome. And when we have done our testing of transcriptomics, of what the cells are actually doing before and after specific IV NAD therapies, we've seen some remarkable shifts in the behavior of how the mitochondria are functioning. And I think this holds great promise for us to both understand what the problem is and then to make the right recommendations with regard to the dosing, the frequency, and the combination of NAD therapies with other therapies. There's so much new information coming all the time about NAD. Its precursors like nicotinic riboside or NMN, and this is going to be an ongoing field of research and investigation. The good news is that a lot of these therapies are available now. There's a lot that you can do to help improve your NAD plus levels with age, or with your own lifestyle interventions. So I'm really thankful that we got to spend a little time together diving into this. There's so much more I want to talk about, but sometimes a bite-sized piece is best. So NAD is a great therapy. If you have any interest in pursuing that with us, please feel free to give us a call at MaxWell Clinic. Our phone number is 615-370-0091. I wish you well and great energy for all your cells.